what you need to do, and of course you come with the idea, or you imagine the problem, you try to look for the solution to the problem, which is the idea, and of course you come up with invention and innovation, which will mean a kind of update, come up with something that is new, unique in itself. Okay, and also we'll be looking at the importance of competitive advantage, all right, and ownership in entrepreneurship, and also finally look at the strategic opportunities available. We wouldn't be spending much time. So these are the core elements that we are looking at. I've just talked about them earlier. Okay, the slides are not much. I think the next section. So for entrepreneurship, we know that it's all about coming up with new business idea. So in other words, how we think, or how startups think, and the reasoning behind their idea, and of course what problem they've identified and they want to provide solution to. All right, there are different theories involved in entrepreneurship. We have the creative destruction theory, we have the discovery theory, we have the creation theory. The creative destruction theory basically looks at how organized, or how individuals become creative to disrupt what others have created. For instance, we know when we add the mobile phones were not smartphone before, but Steve Jobs came up with a creative disruptive destruction, in the sense that he came up with something creative that would disrupt the mobile phone industry. So it destroyed, we know, um, the likes of Nokia and others, HTC. HTC was also smartphone at some point, but they could not compete. All right, but Nokia could not sustain the pace with the smartphone, and they left the industry. We talk about discovery theory, where you are there to discover what is going on in the business. So you are coming up with something that is identical to what is there, all right, but trying to discover something new. Okay, and of course we have the creation theory, which focuses on the creativity of entrepreneurs. Okay, so here are the basic entrepreneurship strategy, where the strategy that entrepreneurs will need to come up with that is fit for the market will always start from trying to assess what is going on in the market. Like I said, remember I said identifying the problem. So you look for problem, that the problem becomes an opportunity. That gives you the creative ability. All right. So it starts with one, identifying the environment, what is going on in the environment. If you've got prior knowledge about the environment and the business and what you want to do, okay, the path you want to follow, and of course, what are you going to experiment, the kind of ideas you generate. All of these elements will put up, or will bring about you identifying the opportunity. And of course, if you identify opportunities, you need to look at your resources. Do you have the internal resources to make this opportunity a reality? In other words, take advantage of the opportunity. And also, of course, look at external resources. If you are able to gain resources from the external environment, this is what will bring to it will finally bring about the business ideas you want to develop. Because one, you've looked at your internal resources. If you have the capabilities or the potential to undertake a particular line of business, then if you have the resources, fine, you have the resources. If you don't, you have to what? Source for the resources from the external environment. Okay, by bringing in either new recruit, new employees, and very often what businesses do with would be to bring in one or two individuals from external and retrain their employees. Okay, and of course, this would determine finally how you want to enter the market, okay, or how you want to adapt your business to what is out there. Okay, for the personal aspect of entrepreneurial strategy involves the individual. According to Lynch, you have to look at the experience you have, what you've been able to observe, and your reflections. And of course, you then progress to forming the idea or the abstract, and of course, the forming the idea or coming up with the concepts. And of course, you have to test the new concepts or the new ideas if they are worthwhile. You have to also take into account the risks involved. Okay. You have to seriously take into account the risks involved. And we also do have, remember we talked about the drivers of entrepreneurship. We talked about imagination, ideas, invention, and innovation. So I've told us earlier, for imagination, that's just the first part of you coming up with the strategy. You have to think about what you want to do. One minute, please. Okay, so you have to look at what you want to do, or the idea, the imagination. You begin to imagine what you need the problem to solve, and you of course look for the ideas to solve the problem. And this will involve either brainstorming you thinking about these ideas yourself, or you brainstorm with partners, or you use focus group to discuss your ideas. Brainstorming simply means coming together, think about the problem that have been identified and looking for solution to it. There is always a problem to solve, or there is always something to add to what is in existence. Okay, this is how entrepreneurs start up their business. Okay, so like we said previously, this has to do with how you are developing your ideas, the process involved. So it starts from exploration. You have to explore what is going on, come up with the ideas. Remember, I've said ideas is all about looking for problems and trying to solve them, or you want to be creative, come with something totally new. Remember, we talked about three main elements, or you are trying to add to what is already in existence. So, of course, when the idea comes in, you have to take a look at the idea. If it's very often when ideas come, there are several ideas coming together. You need to sift through them. As you can see on the slide, they say weed the ideas, but I would say sift through the ideas, look for the relevant ideas, that which is good for business and good for society. All right. And you have to then, of course, develop that or bring them to fruition. And you have to test them in the market if they are okay, or the prototype, before you launch the idea. 1 minute, let me take a look at your attendance quickly. Okay, that's fine. And how entrepreneurs go about competitive advantage. All right. Remember, we've discussed some time ago, competitive advantage is basically that which you do that gives you an advantage over your competitors. So the edge you have over them, that capability you have that they don't have. Okay. And for you to be able to sustain a competitive advantage, you have to have a reputable brand or good reputation as well. Also have good knowledge about the business. And of course, you need to have core competencies and other unique resources. Your resources is what gives rise to your core competencies. Your core competencies is what gives you rise to your competitive advantage. Okay, it's a cascade of process. So the resources you have and how you're able to utilize them. If you're able to utilize your resources both effectively and efficiently, it shows you have such a capability. The capability is what gives rise to core competencies, and core competencies give rise to competitive advantage. If you go some weeks back, we've dealt with, I think, week 1 or week two lecture slides. You would have seen this. Week 1 or week 2, we dealt with all of this, but I'm just trying to recap them. But they're all on the lecture in the lecture slides. And finally, of course, how do entrepreneurs implement strategy? Implementation of strategy will involve different elements. You have to look at, like we will always say, what is going on in the environment and your resources. And of course, come up with a purpose, and you seek for the opportunities that you need to gain. And of course, you will have to target the customers. Look at your distribution channel, look at your pricing, look at the quality of the service, look at reputation, market, and if you want to use alliances or joint ventures. All of these we have discussed before now. That's why I'm just going through them quickly. Let's look at the second part of I need to bring up at some point you should be able to see the revision guide. Yeah, that should be a revision guide for you. Let's go through the last slide, which has to do with new paradigm. Okay, I believe this slide is okay. No, let's leave this 1 minute. I just noticed that we are not supposed to deal with this. Yeah, we are not supposed to deal with this. Yeah, just notice that. Let's go to, let me take this off. Any question on the previous discussion quickly? Any question on what we discussed earlier? I need to, please put your message on the chat. I can see it's like you guys are doing something else. It's allowed, okay? Yeah. I need to look for your assignments. There is a document I'm looking for. Your revision slides. Not revision, but I need to get this. I don't know where the resource is. Sorry, I'm just looking for. I really want to get this so we can discuss that quickly. Because okay, what I want to say is I've not been able to get. It's supposed to be like a revision slide, but I cannot locate that revision guide on um on the blackboard. I know it was somewhere. Okay, let's just have a quick discussion on your examination, yeah, so you are aware. Though it has the date has not been made known yet. Okay, I need to speak with my colleague, but definitely there'll be an announcement to that. Please listen to the announcements. Yeah. Um, please listen to the announcements, and that will be fine. Okay. What you should do is I needed that to be here. I had wanted. Okay, your exam date, yeah. Please listen up, yeah. I think I've just found your exam is on the 19th of January, yeah, 2021, 2022 rather. On the 19th of January, yeah. So I think the brief is visible to you from what I can see. Okay, are we together? Yeah. So just take note of the date that your exam is coming up on the 19th of January. Yeah, 2022. And a couple of things you need to know, which you will get to see at some point, is that you start from 9 o'clock in the morning and it will end by 1 p.m. So there are a couple of set of questions, probably 4 questions or 3 questions max or so. Just read through the questions on the day of the exam. Remember to create a cover page now and just leave that. So a cover page Word document where you just have your ID number. I doubt you don't need your name. I think, okay, you need your name and your ID number. Yeah. And for those of you from LSC, you should know that you are submitting it using the LSC link, please. So what else you need to know is that you are to start 9 o'clock and of course you end 1 o'clock. All you need to do is try and respond to the questions, not with much words, please. If you can type, your typing need to be good. All right, so you need to try and work around your typing. Immediately you see the questions will be focused around, please take note, you have a case study. I think it's a Nike case study, Nike, which will be released at some point, maybe during the festive period, maybe sometime later in the month. Yeah, so probably second or third week. You have the case study and you go through them. The case study, there are key elements based on what we've done, like pestle, consider SWOT, consider internationalization strategies, joint ventures, and all of that. Yeah. Alliances, acquisition. Just remember these key elements that we have treated, I think, from week 1 to week 6 or 7. Yeah, these are the most, week 1 to week 8 slides will be the most relevant. I'm just giving you heads up. I've not seen the question, I must say, so you understand. Yeah. um 1 minute, let me just try and okay, 1 minute. I just want to if we have the revision, I would have told you some things. So, but basically, yeah, are we together? Can you all hear me? Yeah. Okay. Just take note of some of the things we may tell you that you may be asked. I'm just giving you some general area that you may be asked. If you want to take your pen and just take note of these important elements. Remember, I've told you you'll be given a case study, and the case study will be Nike, I believe. You can start to So a couple of research on Nike. Remember, it's an exam and you have to submit before 1 p.m. Please take note of that. The regulations will be out for you to see at some point, but all you need to do is quickly type your response, your answers quickly, your suggested answers. I think you will be asked to, as usual, I'm just thinking of what we used to do. So you'll be asked to answer 3 questions from 5. Yeah, you answer 3, and each of the question has about 33 marks. Okay, 33.3 or thereabout. Okay, so you could be asked to from the case study to look at what are the capabilities of the organization. Okay, and what gives them competitive advantage. Okay, this is the possible thing we could ask you. Okay, what would the organization do to have a kind of competitive advantage, or what do they have? You have to justify it based on the case study, what you are saying. So you need to know what competitive advantage is. You also need to understand what strategic capabilities are. So please go to the lecture slides, look at capabilities and competitive advantages again. All right. And you can also look at internationalization. What are the drivers of internationalization? So please take note of these points I'm talking about. They are suggested, but I know the likelihood of them being repetitive is there. So you need to look at what are the drivers of internationalization. There is a lecture slides on that. Please go back to the lecture slides, week 1 to about 8, or focus on week 1 to 10 or week 1 to 8. Yeah, that should be your focus slides. Are we all taking notes, please? Are you guys taking notes? Can you let me know? Because it's like, I'm okay, good. I'm just giving you heads up on the likely questions that could come up. Please focus on them. I don't want any excuses. You all should pass and pass well, please. So the next question that could be asked is, remember, you are looking, there's a case study for you, and the case study is I think on Nike or something, but there is a case study. It will be released on time for you guys to take a look at that and have an idea about it. And of course, we may ask you, so internationalization, okay, and we may ask you about the Porter diamond theory. So how can the selected organization incorporate Porter diamonds? Take note of that. Yeah. And we may ask question on the organization. How can they use the McKinsey 7S framework? We have McKinsey 7S framework. If you remember, we have skills, we have we've got skills. Sorry, just being distracted here. Okay, sorry, yeah. I was just distracted. So remember, for the McKinsey, we've got skills. We talked about the skills, the strategy, system, and all of that, and structures. Yeah. And so just see how the McKinsey 7S framework can be incorporated to the organization, how you can use that to analyze the organization. Remember, there are about three, and I've given you the likely, and of course, the last time we looked at balance scorecard. Okay, so go back, understand the balance scorecard, identify what threats the business can face, and the weaknesses. So the internal aspect of the organization, what could be their threats? Threat is external, and weakness is internal. And how can they manage this? Okay, how can organization use strengths and opportunities and weakness and threats? How can they deal with all of this? So the chosen organization, how can they deal with this? And of course, I think I've given you 5 ideas or so. Please focus on them. Yeah, when the case study comes up, take a look at all of these points I've mentioned. Yeah, and you should be fine. Are we all good? Okay. Okay, please, you should all take note of this and start working on them towards during the holidays for um as your revision, and the likelihood of them being repetitive is there, so you are not struggling. You can keep those slides, the relevant slides that are important for these the points I've talked about. McKinsey 7S framework. We've talked about um we also talked about strategic capabilities, and of course competitive advantage. Go back to the slides. We also talked about, go back to balance scorecard. All right, go back to the slides. They're there. We also talk about internationalization. What are the drivers of internationalization? Look at that. Also look at the Porter Diamonds theory. All right, please, they are all on the lecture slides. And of course, finally, you look at um, the balance scorecard. Yeah, so look at threats, weaknesses, opportunity, and threats. I don't want to say much, so just take note of these and work around them, please. They are very, very important that you do this. I plead with you. Okay, this being our last session, yeah, but at some point the revision will be suggested revision guide will be put up. Okay, it has been taken off, but I believe that should be up again at some point. 1 minute, let me take a look at this, if it is here. Okay, so that is that. Just okay, what you will do based on what I've just talked about, start looking for the slides. Okay, do that for the remaining period. All right, I wouldn't want us to talk about case study and all of that. For George and Booker, do the same, please. Yeah, what I've just highlighted, go back to the lecture slides. You all have access to the lecture slides. Download them. Start looking from week 1 lectures. Look for the slides that are relevant. If I were you, I will either print them or take full note of them because this is an examination and it's online examination. You may find it tricky. But if you know all of these points I've just listed, when you come across, when the case study has been when you've been granted access to the case study, All you need to do again now is to look at the case study and look for these elements in the case study and start typing them up, please. And on the day of the exam, you just have to just look if they correspond. If they correspond, you just submit them. You don't have to be struggling with typing. First and foremost, look for, immediately the case study is out, look for these elements we just discussed, type them out on a separate Word document. If it's identical, if peradventure it's repetitive, you just quickly submit your work. You don't need to struggle because you already know what to do. All right? Are we all good? Please, yeah, I want each and every one of you to take my advice. Because I say this because at times the questions are repetitive. Okay, take it seriously, please. Yeah, please. So you are all happy, and I'm happy to mark your scripts without any issues. The questions are often repetitive. You should just take note of all these points I've mentioned. Yeah. Okay, use this couple of hours. For George and Buka, you can sign out. Okay, George, you want to say something? For on the day of the exam, trust me, I cannot help you. Okay, before that. George, no, George, I cannot do more than what I've done for you. Trust me, yeah, I've done so much for you. By giving you these tips, I cannot assist any further. It's now your responsibility to focus. You have access to the lecture slides, right? Good. Go through the lecture slides from week 1 to about week 10. Look at these points. I've given you about 8 to 9 points. Focus on them. Start writing things out, but that are relevant. And in some instance, put references. Yeah, do that and just keep that. If peradventure they're identical, you can just copy them, paste them on your exam Word document you have created on that day. Yeah, I'm sorry, someone just sent something. Fan, you said no, there is no test before that. No test. Yeah, it's just the exam that will be coming up on the 19th, I think. Yeah, on the 19th of January 2021, 2022 rather. I keep saying 2021. Okay, 2022. So take note, that's when your examination is coming up. For there is no, like I said, yeah, just take note. Is on the 19th of January 2022. That will be made formally known to you. Okay. And like I said, a case study will be sent out. Just to remember the points I've given to you and start developing something about them. That's just all. You don't need to struggle. Go back to the week's lecture slides from week 1 to about 10. Take your time. When you come across 7S Mackenzie framework, take your time and type out things, ideas about the 7X Mackenzie framework. And when you see the case study comes out, relate it to the look at the case study, relate what is going on the case in the case study to the 7S Mackenzie framework, and type it out as though you are addressing the issue or you are trying to profile solution. Okay, all of the points, ideas I've given to you, type them out as though you are trying to profile solution to them in relation to the case study. Like I said, if you are fortunate, it comes up, you are not struggling, you just submit your work long before 1 p.m. So by 10 p.m., you would have all submitted your work. Okay, or but don't submit 1 p.m. so you don't struggle with your submission. Try as much as you can to submit early, please. Yeah. But remember all the points I've given to you, they are important. I'm saying this out of experience, yeah, that they are very, very, very important. That's they say a word is enough for the wise. Yeah, because I know we do repeat questions. That's all I can tell you for now. All right. And keep this to yourself. Yeah, just be focused on what I've just told you, and you'll all be happy if it happens that way anyway. Okay. Any question again so far? Any question? Okay, no for George. Zhang, do you have any question? One. Okay, no question. So please use this remaining moment. I know you've got about 2 hours left. Use them to take a look at what I've just told you. So start going through the lecture slides now. Focus on this. Don't focus on any other stuff. Now, your focus should be the lecture slides. Please start focusing on that. And at George and Buka, you can sign out at 11. The rest of you, you sign out at half 12, please. Is that okay? Are we together? Yes, this is the last session. But by right, next week, but this is the last session. Next week, you will do it is a revision session. If the revision link is up, then you see it yourself. But this is our last session, yeah? This is the final session for, yeah. Yeah.